Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be going through the leaked abilities for Aries, the boss of the upcoming Epoch of Pain content coming out in February, and I'm excited for him. I'm going to be going through, obviously, the abilities, but also the strategies that players will have to learn and get used to if they want to get through this guy efficiently. Now, I think there will be solos. From a couple clauses here or there, I think I can spot patterns in the design that indicate what Kabam are going for, and I think that people will be able to get solos relatively quickly, not immediately. It won't be like Glycan or whatever the hell the one in Act 9's called, where people just solo them first try. It's not going to be like that. He's going to be a very tough boss, but people are going to get through him, and I'm very excited for it. I'm particularly excited for your first rank 4. Let me know in the comments down below who your first rank 4 is going to be, unless it's Serpent, in which case two things: A, your mother didn't love you, and B, I don't want to know. Let's get into it. So the first thing you need to know is that this fight was created by this man, $50,000 dead or alive. His name is Kabam Stewart. He has form for this, so he was the guy behind the nameless Grandmaster fight in Necropolis, and also, I believe, Glycan. I think Glycan. He was going on in the live stream, they were talking about people defeating his children, which was weird. His children. Anyway, he's got form for this, and he was the man behind Aries, so we have him to thank for this evil. The second thing you need to know in this fight is, fuck Hercules. Fuck Hercules. Fuck that guy. So, Hercules has obviously always been stupidly powerful. Just always. But particularly in these big boss fights where there's some sort of wounded phase or where your damage ramps up across the fight, because his feats of strength just scale so well with his damage increase, he just goes nuts. And combining that with his immortality, he's saved summoners thousands of revives across the years, just allowing you to continue after you cock up. And Kabam have tried to combat this in many ways. They've tried making the opponent unstoppable when they're infuriated. They've tried taking his immortality away, but he just persists. So in this fight, Ares just gains a bar of power every 3 seconds. They add in some sort of stupid clause like, oh, he hates his brother and therefore gains a bar of power every 3 seconds. I'm sure it's true. I'm sure Ares does hate Hercules. I don't know. I'm not a classics student. But fuck Hercules. That's the point. Fuck Hercules. And this is what Ares is actually going to look like in an actual fight. So you can see here he's summoning various weapons. You see a minigun, you can see an axe, you can see a sword, a shield. There's a lot of stuff going on. He obviously hits very hard, but we're going to have a look here at his SP2, and you can see it goes on forever. Lots of different weapons summoned with different colours, and essentially how this fight works is you have to respond to these attacks, not with a dexterity mastery, but with a certain set of responses to each attack, and then your damage ramps for every time you successfully do that. So these abilities were leaked by Banned Player on Twitter, or no, X, or the Root of All Human Evil, or whatever you want to call that platform. They were leaked by Banned Player. Go check him out. Let's kick it off with a heavy attack. Ares' heavy attack cannot miss, be evaded or interrupted, but it can be punished. So you'll have seen in the Hercules clip, Hercules try and interrupt that heavy attack. He just resists the hit. Nothing to be done, you gotta go in after. The second hit covers the entire arena and inflicts, a couple things, lasting 60 seconds. And this is going to be the main theme of the fight. When you're fighting Ares, it's all about precise timings. It's all about doing this at the right moment and engaging with everything he does and responding to it in the correct way. You can't not engage with Ares. Right? He is inevitable. You have to do as he says, or what is required of you to then proceed in the fight. So no outranging this. You just got to deal with it and then punish back in. So this is the standard page for all boss fights in this game, really, that just removes any advantages that any one champion may have over another, levels the playing field, says, screw you to the player, you're on your own, no one champion is going to help you, and fuck Hercules. So Aries ability accuracy, armor rating, armor, resistances, special attack modifiers cannot be reduced. He's immune to special lock, slow, halt, all forms of power manipulation, and stun. Aries' opponent's attack and critical damage ratings, special attack multipliers, and perfect block chance are locked to their starting values, and they are immune to grit, indestructible, death immunity, and immortality. You have no safety nets. Nothing. You're on your own. You're playing with the equivalent of a potato, and the only thing that is going to help you is your skill and your grit. Not in the game. Figuratively. the concept, not the mechanic. Aries bathes in blood and carnage, taking no damage from damaging effects. I mean, he's trying to fuck Hercules when he's already fucked. Just in case anybody even tries this with Hercules, just don't even go there. When the attacker gains health from the regeneration effect, Ares' disdain for any so-called laws of war grants him 400% of the health gained as permanent attack rating. So, I really hope he applies no debuffs. Because, willpower, for example. Does adrenaline count from this? Does adrenaline count? So say you get hit and you heal some back, is that a regeneration effect? That would be really interesting. And the attack rating is permanent, so that increase just goes up for the rest of the fight. That's going to be really interesting to see if adrenaline healing is counted in that, if salve healing is counted in that. Champs like Dr. Voodoo, not that anybody plays them anymore, I'm just listing an example. They're going to get really quite hammered by this. That is very powerful. The attacker's effects that trigger against final bosses do not trigger against Ares. I can't even think of any examples of this off the top of my head, but I assume that these exist, and they exist in enough of a capacity to be worth ruling out. So whatever effects your champions may get, you don't get them here. Ares respects relentlessness. When he defeats a champion, that champion gains an indefinite 100% crossfight vigor passive, but excludes being knocked out by the SP3. So, again, every single time you get cooked, you increase damage from all sources by 100%. So it doubles your damage every time you suck at the game. And I don't know. I don't want to put any sort of ideas into anybody's heads. But maybe there's a strategy where you just get cooked deliberately and then deal massive damage. I don't know. We'll have a look. And hey, fuck Hercules. So this is another very important screenshot here. War has changed. So, during Ares special attacks, the attacker cannot move backwards as the spirit of war cuts off all retreat. Now, this isn't a route, apparently. They said that in the live stream. It's not a route. But it works like a route. Treat it like a route. You're not getting anywhere near him. After the kick, each hit uses a different weapon and requires a different action to be performed in time with the strike. Here cements what I was saying before. So this fight is all about doing what is required of you at the required time, nicely and accurately, in order to move on. Otherwise, you're cooked. So he has a number of weapons, and they all have their own response. With a sword, a well-timed block. With the axe, dodge. With a spear, a light attack. With a minigun, swipe up or down. And when he performs the correct action, it prevents the hit from landing and grants you an indefinite 75% vigor passive. So, 75% damage from all sources. I don't know exactly how all of these inputs are going to work. Like, do you just hit the light attack once? Or do you just smash it? It says to be performed in time with the strike. So I think it's with the timing of a dexterity, but you just hit the light attack at the right time, swipe up or down at the right time. Failure to do so will result in the attack landing no matter what. So, as we already saw, the SP3 is a guaranteed knockout. I already mentioned that, but let's talk about its phases. So, Ares transitions between phases at certain health thresholds. That's nothing new. What is potentially a bit newer for these boss fights is the effects of each phase are cumulative. To those who have done Necropolis, you'll recognise this format, but this is a bit newer for boss fights, for example, in Act 7 or 8 or 9, and in endgame content. During Aries special attacks, time moves 20% slower. With each consecutive phase, it speeds up by 7.5%. This may not mean a lot now, but as you'll go on to see, dealing with Aries special attacks is different than just dexing out of the way at a certain time. You have to respond to each new weapon he summons with a different action. At the start, you'll get given some breathing room, and you'll be like, okay, what's next? Oh, it's this. I have to swipe up and down, I have to tap block, I have to use a light attack, I have to swipe back or something. And as the fight goes on, you have to be more and more familiar with this and deal with it faster and faster and faster. And as there are more than 3 phases, eventually time is going to go faster. So this fight's going to get harder and harder and harder as he goes down, and eventually you're going to be dealing with these phases in sped up time. So if you've ever fought Kang in Act 7.4, you'll know what that's like. It gets pretty intense. Entering a new phase removes all Vigor passives granted by Aries except Crossfight, so the 100% you gain from getting cooked, that's staying, and converts each one into a 5% Intimidate passive on Aries for 5 seconds. So in the phase transitions, he's going to turtle up. Like the Grandmaster, nothing new. Also nothing new, when the Intimidates expire, he goes passively unblockable, unstoppable, and indestructible. So he just enters Super Ultra God mode. Very similar to the Grandmaster when he goes angry. I don't think he goes indestructible and unstoppable, but essentially he backs up against a wall and then you gotta back up yourself. Phase 1, Incursion. The attacker's health, as a percentage, cannot be higher than Aries. That is probably the second most important clause in his entire kit. As you kill Aries, you get dragged down with him. This is baffling to me. This is just a screw you to all the sweats out there who I know were gunning to try and kill this guy with 100% health. You know, knockout blow to those guys, because this just completely changes the dynamic of the fight from anything we've seen before. In the past, it's always been useful to have a little bit more health just in case you take a few more blocked hits than planned or if you get smacked. That's no longer going to matter. You are going to be dropping down as Aries drops down as well. He drags you with you. So while the attacker's health violates this rule, they passively degenerate until the two are equal at a rate of 1% of base health per second. So, yeah, wow. When he's at 1%, you're going to be at 1%. And this really builds into the theme of the fight where it's about precise timings. As with all of the big boss fights Kabam has designed over the past few years, it is possible to exist and play perfectly in the fight without getting touched. And Aries is going to exploit that. When you're down at low health, you can't get touched, because I assume that you're going to be knocking him down and your health is going to be going down by your own actions. So you have to really elevate your standard of gameplay to the max. And to get the most out of this fight, you have to be playing perfectly. It's really, really interesting, this clause. I'll be excited to see how the players deal with this, because, you know, while it is possible to enter a fight against, say, Bahamut or Glycan on 1% and survive, it's not fun. And I'm surprised that Kabam are exploiting the skills of the players in this way, because that is bloody rough. So on to Phase 2. Phase 2, Contention. Aries will now only throw special attacks while he has 2 or more bars of power, and he decides to use either his SP1 or SP2 at random. Using either special attack costs 2 bars of power. To those who have fought Glycan, this will be familiar. He does the same thing, and I'll tell you, from experience, it takes some time to get used to this. It can be hard if you're expecting an SP1 and you get an SP2, or vice versa. This will trip some people up. From what I understood from the live stream, a bit like Glycan, the background of the fight, the very screen itself, will change colour for a split second. It's a subtle detail, but it's a detail your brain will pick up on, and the colour will correspond to a certain special attack. So it's easier to predict what's coming. With each of his attacks, Aries generates 5% of a bar of power, regardless of whether the attack connects. I'm not sure if that's every hit of the special attack, or just whenever he activates it, he gains 5%. I think it's the former. And Aries becomes more aggressive the closer he is to the attacker's corner. So, what this means is, when he's in his Ultra God mode that we mentioned, so after he comes out from the Intimidates, he goes unstoppable, indestructible, unblockable, you name it, he's got it. And he's going to run at you. And the more that you dodge back, the more you're going to find yourself in a corner, which is not where you want to be. So what Kabam are trying to force you to do here is really shallow dex him. Really stay up close and personal as much as you can while not getting smacked as he runs at you. Because the closer he is to your corner, the closer you're going to find yourself to your corner, and it's not going to be fun. So definitely watch out for that. And on to Phase 3. Phase 3, Aggression. Aries' special attacks can only be punished with the appropriate act of aggression. So this adds another layer of complexity. Remember, all of these phases are cumulative. So on top of this, you have to worry about whatever was mentioned in Phase 1 and Phase 2. So not only do you need to respond to each weapon he summons during the special attack with a particular action, you need to remember which act of aggression to respond with that is called out after each special attack. So they're comprised of 2 actions that must be performed in order. The act is randomly chosen from the following at the start of the phase and resets after each special attack. I assume there will be a call out on the screen and also probably in the pause menu. So if you forget, you can go and refresh your memory. And I think this is going to be quite a lot to keep track of. Performing the chosen act at the end of Aries' special attack prevents Aries from moving or attacking and guarantees the attack will land. So even if you get the dodge backwards one, you can still properly do it. Other things to watch out for: medium attack into special attack. Get a bar of power. If you notice that, get a bar of power. No specials until he throws a special. And I think this will be on the next screenshot, but attempting to punish Aries without the appropriate act of aggression. So if you get it wrong, you get reversed. So he executes a reversal just like Patriot does. If you're not familiar with him, he basically knocks you down and pushes you back. I'm not sure if that's going to do any damage. I don't think it does, but it just prevents you from getting the natural punish on any of his special attacks. So make sure you refresh your memory if you can't remember, and keep track of not only what you need to do to dodge the SP1 or SP2, but also what you need to do to punish it. That's going to be a real mind bender. Now on to Phase 4, and I'll be really honest, this is quite embarrassing. I don't know what haste is. I don't know what haste is. Is that a new thing? I don't know. I looked it up on the glossary on the MCOC website. I couldn't find it. I assume it's something I've missed, and that it's bad for him to have it. But the timer for him getting haste is paused during his special attacks and while he is intimidated or indestructible. It is reset when he is struck during a heavy attack. So, as we know from before, you cannot interrupt his heavy attack, but as you saw from the Hercules video, you can get away with that, dodge out of the way of the final hit, and then punish. So that might be a tactic for this phase, although be wary of blocked hits, because he's going to chip you down in the block, and there'll come a part in this phase where you're going to be down to 2% health, because that's what his degeneration does. So this may be quite difficult to keep him from getting that haste. Again, I have no idea what that does. Let me know in the comments below if you know what haste is. I have no idea. That's really embarrassing. I can't find it. And this is the last phase, Oppression. The phase that you're going to have to deal with at 1% health. And this really cements, this really is the nail in the coffin for what I was saying all the way at the start of this breakdown about the theme of this fight just being perfect gameplay at 1%, exploiting what was theoretically possible against previous bosses, where you can technically run through fights like Grandmaster, Bahamut with 1% if you play perfectly, and Kabam are really exploiting that here. You're going to have to do it. While he has one or more of these immortality passives, he gains 99 on fight start. His attacks cannot be blocked. Not sure what difference that's going to make, because unless you have perfect block all the time, which I doubt, you're going to get killed anyway. 3 of these immortality passives are removed whenever any hit of Aries special attacks does not land. 2 passives are removed when Aries is intercepted, and 1 passive is removed when the fight starts. I would love to see the Mad Lad who just goes in with 100 revives and does it that way. I would love to see that. Some absolute maniac. Anyway, from the look of that Gladiator clip, with the amount of hits in his SP2, I don't think you're going to need to deal with many special attacks before you removed all 99 of those immortality passives. And remember, you still have to keep track of the correct action in response to each weapon. You still have to keep track of the correct act of aggression to punish each special. All the while, he's unblockable, you're at 1% health, you're trying to intercept him. This is going to be really, really stressful. Really, really stressful. Oh, man. Kabam Stewart. We love you, man. We love you. Wow. And I assume after this goes away, he just dies. But anyway, that is just about all I have for you today. If you have made it this far, then thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.